Welcome to my channel World of Coins, the place where history meets treasure. Here, every coin tells a story, from the oldest United States classics that shaped our past to the newest rare discoveries that amaze collectors today. If you love the thrill of uncovering hidden value, exploring the beauty of design, and learning the secrets behind coins worth fortunes, then you're in the right place. Join us as we dive deep into the world of rare U.S. coins, both old and new, and reveal the fascinating details that make them priceless. Top 1. The Kennedy half-dollar is one of the most iconic modern American coins, and the 1776 to 1976 issue stands out as a special commemorative piece that continues to fascinate collectors today. This coin was struck to celebrate the nation's bicentennial, marking 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It was more than just currency, it was a patriotic symbol. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. His image had first appeared on the half-dollar in 1964, following his tragic assassination. Above Kennedy's portrait are the words, "Liberty," while the national motto, "In God We Trust," appears across the field. Beneath the bust is the dual date 1776 to 1976, a reminder of America's birth and its bicentennial celebration. Unlike most half-dollars, which carry only a single date, this dual date makes the bicentennial issue instantly recognizable. It ties the coin directly to one of the most important anniversaries in U.S. history. The reverse of the bicentennial half-dollar was designed by Seth Huntington, and it replaced the traditional presidential seal used on other Kennedy halves. Huntington's design depicts Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the building where both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution were debated and adopted. The detail of Independence Hall on the coin is striking, capturing the historic building. That remains a symbol of freedom and democracy. Above the design is the inscription, "United States of America," while just below is the national motto, "E Pluribus Unum." At the bottom appears the denomination, half-dollar. The coin was struck at 3 facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint played an important role in producing coins for both circulation and collectors. Philadelphia and Denver struck circulation issues, with Denver coins bearing the D mint mark, while Philadelphia pieces carried none. San Francisco produced both proof coins and special 40% silver collector issues, which were sold directly to the public in sets. These silver pieces are especially popular today. The bicentennial half-dollar was issued in such large numbers that many people saved them as keepsakes, tucking them away in drawers, jars, and albums. Because of this, millions of examples survive in circulated condition, and even uncirculated pieces are common. But not all bicentennial halves are equal. The most valuable examples are the ones struck in 40% silver or those preserved in superb gem condition. Some proof coins are so well made that they look like works of art. Another key area of interest lies in error coins. Minting mistakes such as double strikes, off-center strikes, and die varieties can make bicentennial halves far more desirable. Collectors especially prize coins with strong strikes, brilliant luster, and no distracting marks. The highest graded examples are scarce and can bring impressive sums. Proof coins from San Francisco add another layer of beauty. With frosted devices and mirrored fields, they showcase the design in incredible detail. Special collector sets issued in 1975 and 1976 contained these bicentennial half-dollars, and today they remain a favorite among numismatists. The dual-date design also makes the coin a unique teaching tool, often used to introduce new collectors to U.S. coinage history. For many Americans, the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar carries sentimental value. It reminds them of the celebrations held during the nation's bicentennial year. Parades, fireworks, and patriotic displays marked the event, and the coin itself became a tangible piece of that national pride. The coin also reflects a turning point in U.S. history, when Americans looked back at 2 centuries of independence and forward to the future. Even though billions were struck, condition separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. High-grade examples certified MS-67 or higher are rare and command strong demand. Silver bicentennial halves are another story entirely. Their limited production and intrinsic metal value make them favorites among both investors and collectors. Auction houses have seen remarkable prices for top-quality examples, especially rare errors or coins preserved in perfect condition. For most people, the bicentennial half-dollar is a common collectible, but for those who know where to look, Hidden treasures still exist among these patriotic coins that it serves as both money and a piece of art, linking Kennedy's legacy to the nation's founding. In one memorable design, and among the most extraordinary examples ever discovered, one 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar has been valued at an astonishing $220,000. Top 2. The Kennedy half-dollar has always been a coin filled with emotion, history, and national pride, and the 1981 issue is no exception. Struck nearly 2 decades after its introduction, the 1981 Kennedy half-dollar carried forward a tradition that began as a tribute to the late President John F. Kennedy. Its obverse displays the distinguished portrait of Kennedy, a design created by Gilroy Roberts, who served as the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. Kennedy's image is strong and noble, with his gaze facing left, symbolizing hope and forward vision for the country. Above his head sits the inscription, Liberty, while the motto, In God We Trust, is divided across the field, and the date 1981 appears at the bottom. On the reverse of the coin, we find Frank Gasparo's depiction of the presidential seal, a striking emblem of American authority and tradition. This reverse design features a heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching an olive branch in one claw and arrows in the other. Representing peace and military strength, surrounding the eagle are 50 stars, a nod to the unity of the states under one flag. The inscriptions, United States of America, and half-dollar, frame the reverse, giving the coin a commanding and patriotic appearance. The 1981 Kennedy half-dollar was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with each location contributing to the year's production. Coins from Philadelphia carried no mint mark. Denver coins bore the familiar D and San Francisco coins were issued in proof form with the S mark. By 1981, however, the half-dollar was no longer a coin of daily commerce. Circulation had dropped dramatically since the early 1970s. People preferred smaller coins like quarters and dimes for transactions, leaving half-dollars more often in banks or collections. Yet, the Kennedy half-dollar never lost its popularity with collectors, who continued to treasure it for its symbolism and history. Proof coins of 1981 were struck with great care, featuring mirrored fields and frosted devices that highlighted the artistry of the design. These proof coins were sold in special sets, preserved in protective packaging to ensure their survival in pristine condition. In contrast, circulation strikes often showed contact marks and wear, making high-grade uncirculated pieces scarcer than many realize. The condition of a 1981 Kennedy half-dollar plays a huge role in its value today, with the finest examples drawing considerable attention. Collectors seek out coins with strong strikes, bright luster, and minimal blemishes, often turning to third-party grading services to authenticate quality. Over the years, certain error varieties of 1981 half-dollars have surfaced, adding extra layers of excitement for treasure hunters. These errors might include off-center strikes, double dies, or other unusual minting mishaps that make each coin truly one of a kind. Another fascinating aspect is the role of the Kennedy half in American culture. For many, it evokes memories of change, hope, and remembrance. The coin remains a powerful reminder of President Kennedy's legacy and the era of optimism his presidency symbolized. In 1981, owning a Kennedy half-dollar was more about nostalgia than necessity, as most people no longer spent them in everyday commerce. Yet this lack of circulation has also helped preserve some examples in stunningly high condition, which today carry great collector appeal. Auction houses have reported impressive results when superbly preserved 1981 halves, especially proofs, cross the block. The coin's blend of history, artistry, and symbolism keeps it firmly established in the hearts of numismatists. Even today, finding a well-struck, near-perfect example of the 1981 Kennedy half-dollar feels like uncovering a hidden treasure from America's past. And among the rarest and most extraordinary examples ever discovered, one 1981 Kennedy half-dollar has been valued at $165,000. Top 3. The Kennedy half-dollar of 1988 may look like an ordinary coin at first glance, but it carries with it a story of American history, symbolism, and collector fascination. The series itself began in 1964, shortly after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and it quickly became one of the most beloved coins of modern America. By 1988, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been in production for over 2 decades, maintaining its status as both a circulating coin and a collector's piece. The obverse of the 1988 half-dollar proudly displays the portrait of John F. Kennedy, created by Gilroy Roberts, who was chief engraver of the United States Mint. Kennedy's profile is detailed and lifelike, his hair finely engraved, his gaze resolute, capturing the spirit of hope and leadership he represented. Above his portrait is the word liberty, bold and commanding, a reminder of the ideals upon which the nation was founded. Beneath his chin lies the familiar motto, "In God We Trust," separated into two sections, lending balance to the design. At the bottom of the obverse sits the date, 1988, a subtle marker of the time in which this particular coin was struck. Turning to the reverse, we see the powerful presidential seal designed by Frank Gasparo, another master engraver of the U.S. Mint. The eagle at the center spreads its wings wide, clutching an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, a symbol of peace and strength. A shield covers the eagle's breast, while its beak clutches a flowing ribbon bearing the motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. Encircling the eagle are 50 small stars, each one representing the states of the Union, a symbol of national unity. Framing the entire reverse are the inscriptions, United States of America, and $50, ensuring no one mistakes the coin's significance or value. In 1988, Kennedy $50 were produced at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the San Francisco Mint striking proof versions. The Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, Denver coins carry a D, and the San Francisco proofs are marked with an S. Most of these coins were struck in copper-nickel clad, a composition that had been the standard since 1971, replacing the earlier silver issues. Although technically made for circulation, by 1988, $50 were rarely seen in everyday use, often hoarded or set aside by collectors. The Kennedy $50 had become more symbolic than practical, representing history, memory, and patriotism. Still, each year's production carried subtle differences in quality, strike, and preservation that keep collectors intrigued. Proof coins from San Francisco, with their mirror-like fields and frosted devices, remain highly prized by those who appreciate perfection. Circulated examples may seem common, but uncirculated, high-grade pieces from 1988 are much scarcer than one might expect. Collectors search for coins with sharp strikes, brilliant luster, and minimal marks, often sending them for grading to secure their value. Errors from 1988 also hold a place of interest, ranging from off-center strikes to unusual die varieties that make each coin unique. Every Kennedy $50 tells its own story, and the 1988 issue is no exception, serving as a time capsule of its era. It reminds us not only of Kennedy's legacy but also of the ongoing evolution of American coinage. The fact that these coins were less used in daily transactions helped preserve many in exceptional condition for modern collectors. Auction records show that certain examples of the 1988 $50, when graded superbly or struck with unusual features, can reach astonishing prices. What appears to be a modest piece of change can, under the right circumstances, transform into a numismatic treasure. And among those rare treasures, one remarkable 1988 Kennedy $50 has been valued at $135,000. Top 4. The Kennedy $50 of 1998 holds a special place in the hearts of collectors, not because it was made of precious metals or produced in limited numbers, but because of the history and symbolism it carries. When people hold a 1998 Kennedy $50, they hold more than just 50 cents of face value. They hold a piece of American heritage that began over 3 decades earlier. In 1964, after the shocking loss of President John F. Kennedy, the coin was introduced as a tribute, and by 1998 it had already become one of the longest-running $50 series in U.S. history. On the obverse, the portrait of John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, remains as powerful as the first day it was struck. Kennedy's profile captures strength, youth, and vision, with each detail of his hair and expression engraved with precision. The word liberty arcs above his head, while the motto, "In God We Trust," lies beneath, reminding us of the nation's guiding principles. At the bottom of the coin sits the date 1998, quietly marking the era from which this piece emerged. The reverse, created by Frank Gasparo, presents the official presidential seal, an image rich in symbolism and dignity. An eagle spreads its wings boldly, clutching arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other, balancing peace with readiness for defense. A shield rests on the eagle's chest, while its beak holds a ribbon carrying the words, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. 50 stars encircle the eagle, each star representing a state, and together they form a unifying ring of strength. around the outer rim appear the inscriptions, United States of America, and half dollar, giving the coin its formal identity. By 1998, Kennedy half dollars were struck at Philadelphia and Denver for circulation, with San Francisco producing proof versions for collectors. Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, Denver coins bore the familiar D, and the San Francisco proofs were marked with an S. Most circulation strikes were made of copper-nickel clad, the standard composition since 1971, while some proofs were struck in 90% silver for special collector sets. These silver proof halves stand out for their sharp details and bright luster, making them especially popular among numismatists, though still minted in the millions. By 1998 the half dollar had virtually disappeared from everyday pocket change, people simply did not use half dollars much in transactions, making them a coin more often seen in collections or mint sets. This rarity in circulation gave the 1998 issue an almost special feel, as if it were made more for collectors than for commerce. Collectors today pay close attention to the condition of these coins, with uncirculated or proof examples holding the highest appeal. Grading services examine coins under magnification, judging the sharpness of the strike, brilliance of the luster, and absence of marks. Even the smallest details can separate an ordinary coin from one worth a fortune in the numismatic world. Error varieties from 1998 also attract attention, including double dies, off-center strikes, and unusual planchet flaws. These errors are rare, but when they appear, they transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a unique and valuable treasure. The Kennedy half dollar's cultural significance also cannot be overlooked, as it continues to remind people of Kennedy's lasting legacy. For many Americans, the coin serves as a small monument to the ideals of courage, leadership, and service. In 1998, the series was preparing to enter the new millennium, and collectors looked at these coins as both historical keepsakes and modern artifacts. Decades later, high-grade examples and rare varieties of the 1998 Kennedy half dollar have surfaced at auctions, drawing significant interest, though modest in appearance. One exceptional 1998 Kennedy half dollar has been valued at $80,000. Top 5. The year 1965 was one of the most important turning points in the history of U.S. coinage, and the Washington quarter minted that year tells an incredible story. For more than 3 decades, since 1932, Washington quarters had been struck in 90% silver, admired for their beauty and intrinsic value, but in 1965, everything changed. Rising silver prices made it increasingly expensive for the U.S. Mint to continue producing coins in that metal. As a result, the government made a bold decision to switch the quarter from silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This change was dramatic and controversial at the time, as many Americans were accustomed to their silver coins, which carried both monetary and sentimental value. The 1965 Washington quarter became the first of a new era, representing a departure from centuries of silver coinage in everyday circulation. On the obverse of the coin, the portrait of George Washington remained, designed by sculptor John Flanagan, a design first introduced in 1932. Washington's profile faces left, strong and determined, framed by the word "Liberty" above and the date, 1965, below. The national motto, "In God We Trust," appears to the left of his neck, a steady reminder of America's guiding principles. The reverse of the coin also stayed true to Flanagan's original design, showcasing a majestic eagle with its wings spread wide. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength, while an olive branch rests beneath it, symbolizing peace. Above the eagle sits the inscription, United States of America, and below, the denomination, quarter dollar. Unlike earlier quarters, the 1965 issue contained no silver at all. Instead, it was struck in a clad composition of copper and nickel over a pure copper core. The transition was not immediate, as some leftover silver planchets accidentally found their way into the presses, creating one of the most famous error types in U.S. coinage. Collectors today highly prize these 1965 quarters struck on silver planchets, as they represent a rare mistake during a time of great change. Even standard-clad 1965 quarters are significant for what they represent: the birth of modern coinage in America. Millions were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and they bore no mint mark, a feature that makes them uniform at first glance. Yet not all coins are created equal, and examples in pristine condition are far more difficult to find than worn circulation strikes. Collectors seek out high-grade specimens with sharp details, minimal scratches, And brilliant luster. Proof-like strikes and coins with unusual minting errors only add to the excitement for those who hunt them down. Over the decades, the 1965 quarter has become symbolic of America's economic realities and the nation's adaptability in times of change. It represents a shift from intrinsic silver value to coins that served purely as a medium of exchange. Still, the design of Washington's portrait and the powerful eagle has kept the coin's sense of dignity and heritage alive. Auction records show that extraordinary examples of 1965 quarters, particularly those struck on silver planchets or preserved in stunning condition, can command eye-popping sums. For everyday collectors, the 1965 quarter remains a challenge worth pursuing, a coin that hides potential treasures among ordinary pocket change. Numismatists often say the thrill lies in the hunt, and the 1965 quarter embodies that perfectly. It bridges the gap between old America and modern America. A coin that looks common but tells a story of great historical weight. Even now, discoveries continue to surprise collectors, as hidden gems emerge from rolls, estates, or forgotten boxes, and among the most exceptional of them all, a remarkable 1965 Washington quarter has been valued at $178,000. Top 6. The Washington quarter dollar of 1967 is more than just a piece of pocket change. It is a snapshot of a fascinating time in American history. By this point in the 1960s, the United States Mint was still adjusting to a major change that had begun in 1965, the removal of silver from circulating dimes, quarters, and half dollars. For decades before, quarters had been struck in 90% silver, but the rising cost of silver made it unsustainable to continue the practice. Thus, the Washington quarter was transformed into a copper-nickel-clad coin, with a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. The 1967 issue was only the third full year of this new composition, and it represents a period of transition and adaptation for U.S. coinage. On the obverse of the coin, sculptor John Flanagan portrait of George Washington remains as bold as ever, a design first introduced in 1932. Washington's profile faces left, his hair tied in a colonial style, exuding the dignity of America's first president. The word "Liberty" is boldly inscribed across the top, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," rests just to the left of Washington's neck. At the bottom sits the date 1967, anchoring the design and marking the coin's place in the timeline of American coinage. The reverse continues with Flanagan depiction of a heraldic eagle, wings spread wide in a commanding pose. The eagle clutches arrows in its talons, symbolizing America's readiness to defend itself, while an olive branch lies beneath, symbolizing peace. Encircling this patriotic image are the inscriptions, "United States of America," and "Quarter Dollar." One detail collectors will notice about the 1967 quarter is the absence of a mint mark. Between 1965 and 1967, the mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins in order to discourage hoarding and speculation. As a result, no matter where the 1967 quarters were minted, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, none carry a mint mark. This decision makes the 1967 quarter unique in American numismatic history, as mint marks are one of the main features collectors usually look for. Even though millions were struck, finding well-preserved examples is not always easy, since most circulated heavily in everyday commerce. High-grade uncirculated examples with sharp details and clean surfaces are prized by collectors today. The San Francisco Mint did produce special mint sets in 1967 instead of traditional proof coins, adding another layer of intrigue. These special mint set coins were struck with more care than regular circulation strikes, featuring smoother fields and crisper details. For collectors, these sets represent some of the finest examples of the 1967 quarter, preserved for decades in protective packaging. Mint errors from 1967 are also highly sought after, ranging from double dies to off-center strikes and even planchet flaws. Such errors transform a regular coin into a rare treasure, often drawing strong attention at auctions. The historical context of the 1967 quarter cannot be overlooked. It was a time when America was experiencing social change, economic challenges, and cultural transformation. Through all of this, the Washington quarter served as a stable and familiar part of daily life, quietly passing through millions of hands. Over time, the 1967 issue has become symbolic of endurance and change, marking the new era of modern clad coinage in the United States. Collectors today see the 1967 quarter as a piece that bridges the past silver tradition with the present reality of clad coinage. Auction houses have seen impressive results when pristine or unusual examples of the 1967 quarter have crossed the block. What may look like an ordinary coin to some can actually carry extraordinary value in the right condition or with the right rarity, and among the finest examples ever discovered, one 1967 Washington quarter has been valued at $168,000. Top 7. The Washington quarter has always been one of the most recognizable coins in the history of American money, and the 1971 issue continues the tradition with a story of its own. This coin came at a time when the nation was transitioning fully into the modern era of clad coinage, leaving behind the silver issues that collectors had once treasured. The year 1971 marked the beginning of a decade filled with economic shifts, social changes, and growing public interest in numismatics. On the obverse of the 1971 Washington quarter, we find John Flanagan's timeless portrait of George Washington, first introduced in 1932. The profile of Washington faces left, his hair tied back in a colonial style, representing strength, leadership, and the birth of a nation. Above his head is the word liberty, bold and prominent, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," sits just to the left of his neck. At the bottom of the coin is the date 1971, a simple yet powerful marker of the time in which this quarter was minted. Turning to the reverse, we see the heraldic eagle, another design by Flanagan that had become a hallmark of the Washington quarter series. The eagle's wings are spread wide, a symbol of authority, with arrows clutched in its talons representing defense and strength. Below the eagle is an olive branch, balancing the image with a symbol of peace, reflecting America's dual commitment to readiness and diplomacy. Encircling the eagle are the inscriptions, United States of America, above, and $quarter below, leaving no doubt about the coin's identity. The 1971 Washington quarter was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with Philadelphia coins carrying no mint mark and Denver coins marked with a D. San Francisco also struck proof coins for collectors, bearing the S mint mark and showcasing higher levels of detail and finish. By this time, the composition of the quarter was firmly established as copper-nickel clad, a change that had begun in 1965 after silver was removed. This clad composition meant that the coin no longer carried intrinsic value in its metal but instead relied purely on face value and design. Despite this, the Washington quarter remained a symbol of national pride and was still widely used in circulation across the country. The 1971 issue is notable among collectors because, while millions were produced, high-grade examples are not as common as one might think. Circulated coins often show heavy wear, scratches, and loss of detail, making mint-state examples particularly desirable. Proof versions from San Francisco stand out with their mirror-like surfaces and frosted details, a treat for collectors who value artistry and craftsmanship. Error coins from 1971 have also surfaced, ranging from double strikes to off-center errors, and these attract special interest at auctions. One of the most fascinating aspects of collecting Washington quarters from this era is the challenge of finding coins preserved in pristine condition. The circulation coins were used heavily in everyday commerce, making it rare to see examples that still retain their original mint luster. Grading services play a major role in determining the value of 1971 quarters, with top-graded pieces commanding impressive premiums. Even though the design remained the same for decades, each year's production has its own character, and the 1971 quarter is no exception. It represents the early years of clad coinage, a time when Americans were still adjusting to coins that no longer carried silver. For collectors, this coin is a bridge between the classic silver quarters of the past and the more modern issues that continue to this day. Over the years, auctions have revealed just how valuable a well-preserved 1971 Washington quarter can be, especially when combined with rarity or error features. What looks like an ordinary coin in most people's change can, in the right condition, transform into a highly sought-after treasure. And among the most outstanding discoveries, a remarkable 1971 Washington quarter has been valued at $145,000.